All right. If you can see me and hear me and see me, it is the day today, Wednesday. I'm B minor, and I know you're waiting, looking for the X Factor. The X Factor, half the show, 50% of your star power is not here. But on episode 37, 2/3 of the people listed are here. So we have B minor and Harris Fanaroff. So we are here. So Harris, thanks for joining us. Really excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, excited to be on here. Appreciate it, B minor, and looking forward to the conversation, man.
Absolutely. So a little introduction, background, Harris. You're now a leadership and mental performance coach in the DC area. You're drafted, which is really cool. I'm excited. I want to hear a little bit about that. Out of high school to the Washington Nationals as a pitcher.
Yep.
Pitcher and first baseman too. You played.
Yeah, lefty. Yep, big lefty.
Lefty pitcher. And then you decided to forego that and decided to play in the Patriot League at Lehigh.
Yep.
And then after that, or didn't quite get through that, you got a case of the yips. And my brother suffered from that when he was in high school, and just you couldn't zero it in and throw it.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing, man. It's a wild concept, but yeah, I got it in college, unfortunately.
And so that's where you kind of moved on, and now you've been doing a lot of schooling and now educating and teaching. Harris has the Leadership Coaching for Organizational Performance certificate from American University.
Yep.
And now is helping individuals regain their confidence, helping them make the best decisions possible and live a happier, more fulfilled life. So you have a full-time job and you have a side hustle. So tell us a little bit more. I mean, that's kind of a brief background, maybe to get some people interested or excited, but instead of me saying more about it, why don't you tell us a little bit, Harris, about kind of where you grew up and how you chose Lehigh over the MLB?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks so much for having me again. I appreciate the opportunity. So I grew up outside Washington, D.C. in a suburb of Maryland, Potomac, Maryland. A big part of my life was always sports. I was playing any sport that was out there that you would allow me to play. And it was my differentiator comparatively to everybody in my family, compared to my brothers, compared to others around me. I was surrounded by brothers that were incredibly intelligent. And my way to differentiate myself was through athletics. And so at a pretty early age, I decided I'm going to do everything in my power to play Division I baseball. So I was in probably sixth grade, which is very early. I said, this is what I'm going to do. This is my goal, and I'm going to do it. And I really decided at that moment, everything that I was going to do was going to get me to that goal of playing Division I baseball. So I wake up early, working out all the time, eating healthy, all that good stuff. And so that's what I did. I really focused heavily on baseball. I still played other sports for fun, but really my energy, my focus was on baseball. I tore my ACL actually in the biggest summer, or going into my spring season of baseball in summer, and worked back really quickly so I could still accomplish that. Long story. Ended up signing to Lehigh in the summer, going into my senior year. Super excited about it. Accomplished that goal of playing Division I baseball. Ended up getting drafted in the 50th round by the Washington Nationals out of high school, which was a really awesome experience. It was a lot of fun. I was on beach week. I got the call from the scout. He said, "Hey, Harris, we're about to take you." Just a really cool, fun, amazing experience. Something that I'll never forget. It was the 50th round. Like I just said, they don't offer a ton of money to players taken in the 50th round. And so it wasn't like it was a tough decision. It's a 3-month contract, 50th round, no money. I was always going to go to college. I was always going to get my education. So went to Lehigh, had a really good fall on the mound, and then got the yips in the spring of my freshman year. And how I like to describe the yips, for those that aren't as familiar, it's when your brain and your arm stop talking to each other. And so as a pitcher, when you forget the ability to throw, it's pretty devastating and pretty tough. And so I really just kept spiraling, and really struggled and never was able to figure it out on the mound. After that, I didn't know anything about mental performance. I didn't know that you could work on your mind. It was kind of what I was told was figure it out, like throw a damn strike. And it didn't work for what I was trying to go through and get through. So I came back as a position player, first baseman, outfielder, had a lot of success in the summers, just really couldn't put it together during my time at Lehigh. And I actually ended up quitting junior year, midway through junior year. I just hated baseball, which was pretty tough for me because it had really been my whole life. It was how I described myself. It had been everything about me was baseball, but I hated the sport. I hated going to practice, hated playing games. And so I decided, hey, I'm done with this. And when I quit, I really struggled with identity issues, who I was, what my purpose was. I could no longer say I was a baseball player. I was kind of a washed up baseball player, and I really struggled with it. And I promise I'll stop in a minute, but I got a job out of college. It was fine. It was okay. It was doing inside sales for a healthcare company that it was a job, but I was like, there's more out there for me. I'm a really passionate person. So I wanted to find whatever it was that was out there that was going to pique my interest. So I had 50 to 75 different conversations with anyone that would speak to, anyone that was in my network, anyone that was connected in my network. And one individual I got connected to, his name is Brian Levinson. He was a mental performance and sports psychologist. And like I said, I didn't know anything about this field. I would have been the perfect person for it. I was relatively gifted physically and worked really hard, and my mental game was just not very good. And he also does leadership coaching. And so this was leadership coaching for me in the working world. And we were able to go through a lot of those identity issues that I really struggled with. And after that experience with him, I said, I got to do this for other people. It was such an amazing experience for me going through those 10 sessions that I got to go get certified. I got to go do this for other people. And so once I got certified, I did some coaching inside my old organization, and then made the transition to how can I do this full time. And so that's what I get to do now. I work for an organizational development, leadership development firm full time. And then on nights and weekends, I get to do some sports psychology, mental performance stuff with athletes. I know that was a very long-winded story, but I appreciate it.
No, that's awesome, man. I love it. I mean, the story of the Yips is just something that I can relate to. Basketball wise, there was just that like free throws. That was in high school. I was a good free throw shooter. In college, I didn't get to shoot a lot of them in games, but then it come to practice, and it was competitive. So if I missed, like the whole team would have to run. And I got to a point where it was like I could shoot if I wasn't thinking, but when it was just me out there, and the whole team's gonna run, my mind would just not let me perform like I could all through high school. And I just got mentally frustrated and couldn't do it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the scary part is for most athletes, like we just go on autopilot with our thoughts. And the amazing part is we get to decide that, we get to choose that. And so that's what I help athletes do, is unlock the mental performance aspect of it. And I love it because it's so eye-opening, and it's what gets you from good to great. Like everybody at certain level is talented. And then how do we separate ourselves? It's the mental side. I really, truly believe that. I wish I'd known it when I was playing. And my goal now is to help other athletes get better mentally, become as good as they can be mentally.
I think that's a great, and sometimes the mental game, if you're not physically, I mean, you kind of said everybody's good at a certain level. I agree with that, but I also agree that if your ability isn't quite level with everybody else, but you're mentally disciplined, you can make up some of that physical gap because of your mental approach.
100%. I couldn't agree more with you. That's such a good point. It's like there are certain guys or gals that you've played with, and it's like, well, they're not as good physically, but there's just something mental about them. Like they don't get down when they miss a lot of shots, or they strike out a bunch in a row. They don't think. They're just in flow zone, and they're able to keep going. And it's a pretty unique advantage, and it's something you can work on, similar to working on your technique or your skill or your physical fitness. You can also work on your mental ability, your mental agility. And I just think the more I can get that message out, the more people that are getting that message out, the better it'll be, and the less careers that will be ended on mental reasons. So I believe pretty strongly and passionately about that.
Mental agility. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. It's the ability to bounce back from difficult situations. So being mentally agile, being able to, when you get too high, get you back in the right zone. When you get too low, get you back in the right zone. Being able to be agile in those thoughts and actions. Something that I love and find pretty interesting.
I love resiliency. We talk about res. What's your res level? Resiliency, effort, and selflessness.
I love that.
Like, because we play a unique style of basketball. Jake can attest. We run up and down. We shoot a lot of threes. We pressure the whole game. And we're down sometimes double digits late in the games that we come back and win because our next play mentality, it's next play. The most important play is the next one. You make a good play, forget it.
Right.
You make a bad play, forget it. Next play, next play, next play. So that next play speed is something we talk about a lot. But mental agility, because you think of agility, you think of being, quick, and you think of movements, but mental agility, being able to adapt quickly in certain situations, and bounce back, and resiliency. I think that's a great visual. I think not visual, but maybe like that might paint a picture in somebody that's watching's mind. Mental agility. I think that's a great phrase.
Yeah, I like that RES too. I'm taking that away. I really like that as something to use and something to measure from a athletic standpoint. I mean, I think the more coaches that measure their athletes on that versus what'd you hit this year, how many free throws did you like? Let's focus on the things that we can control versus the things that are out of our control, which is something that I work on a lot with athletes. Very often we worry about the umpires and the field and what our teammates are making, and it's like, let's just focus on what we can control, which is our effort, selflessness, how good of a teammate we are, all that stuff that you mentioned. So I love that you mentioned that.
Yeah, our program has 3 core values at Pacific, where I coach. The university I'm at, it is circle of control, continuous improvement, program first, and this year we added Mamba mentality.
I love that.
So those are our 4 core values. We keep it pretty simple. Some programs have 8, 10 core values, but program first encompasses a lot. So if you're not putting your teammates ahead of yourself, if you're not going to class, if you're not working hard, if you're out drinking or smoking, that's not putting your program first. And circle of control, it's what we were just talking about. If you can't control it, don't worry as much about it, and getting a little better every day. We're not a get rich quick. We're not a change overnight. We talk about the crock pot mentality over the microwave.
Yeah, I love that.
Have you heard that analogy here?
I have not heard that one before, but I really like that I hear 1% better. That's one thing that I try to live by and think about is
exactly,
instead of comparing myself to somebody else, how can I compare to myself and making sure that I'm getting 1% better? And don't get me wrong, there are times that I do start to compare myself, and it's okay, Harris, bring yourself back. How do you get focused? 1% better. Be a better version of yourself. The next day, don't worry about comparing yourself to other people. So I love the crock pot.
That's gold. That's gold right there. If you're taking notes, write that down. That true nobility doesn't come in being superior to another man. True nobility comes in being superior to your previous self.
Yeah.
And at the time, my brother's 5 years older, so he's going off to college, right? Because I'll never forget that quote, because I'm in 8th grade, right? I'm a competitive guy. My older brother's a star 3-sport athlete, valedictorian, just a great, and he's going to go to West Point, right? So he's headed to he's going to West Point. Yeah. And before he leaves, he gives me that quote: true nobility doesn't come in being superior to another man. It comes in being superior to your previous self. And when I'm in 8th grade, I'm like, screw you. I want to be better than you, big bro. Like, you're my measuring stick. But it made sense. And that's something that I've really had to focus on, is it comes back to what you can control. I can't control anybody else's development or anything about them. So focus on your development over comparison, because they might not be working hard and you might be getting better than them. But if they're not working hard, that's not who you should. I mean, you can't compare yourself to that. And I think a lot of our problems is that keeping up with the Jones mentality of, oh, what do they have? Or how fast is their car? Or they have a big house, I need a big house, instead of worrying about what you can control.
Yeah, it's such a good point. And you didn't touch on this one specifically, but I want to hit home the Mamba mentality. I mean, I imagine that was a an ode to Kobe, which is just amazing. And so when I work with my athletes, one of my favorite examples is talking about Kobe, and it's how he literally would get into a different person. He was the Black Mamba on the court. And so I love coming up with athletes. It's what's your version of the Black Mamba when you're on the court or when you're on the field? Because I believe in what I've been taught and trained in is that we have two different mindsets. The best athletes in the world have two different mindsets, one in preparation and one in performance. And so they should actually be totally different. And so when you're preparing, you want to be humble. What can I do to get better? Hey, coach, learn. And then actually when you get onto the court, you need to be arrogant. And I use that word arrogant intentionally. And the gentleman that I was trained on uses that word intentionally. So insanely confident that you're arrogant, that you have a new identity that you're referring to yourself as, which is the Mamba mentality. And so the best performers in the world, Beyonce, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Max Scherzer, they all get in that new version of themselves that they bring out when they're between the lines. And a lot of us are really good at being humble. We're constantly taught to be humble, be humble, be humble, be humble. And that's helpful until you step on the field or the court and you got to believe that you're the best one out there. And so what I work on a lot with my athletes is how are we going to get you to believe that? What are you going to have to do in preparation? What is the work that you're going to have to do in order to bring out the Black Mamba for you? And so the fact that you did that, I just wanted to double tap on it because I love talking.
Thank you. That was one we added this year. So program first, continuous improvement, circle of control. And this year, and Mamba mentality, like you said, is showing up, being the best version of yourself and putting on, that mentality of nobody's going to beat me. Nobody's going to outwork me. And just, it also reminds us about gratitude, like just being thankful, because nothing's guaranteed. And obviously just looking at this tragic year that we've had, I think that's something hopefully people realize is that they shouldn't take anything for granted.
Yeah.
You never know when that's going to be taken away. And that's something that the transition that you're talking about, sometimes that can happen quickly. And not because you decided to maybe hang it up or, put the cleats away, but because of an injury or you get cut from a team and it's just all of a sudden you go from being Brant Minor basketball player or Jake Owens basketball player to just Jake Owens. That transition sometimes can be difficult. And that's kind of what you specialize in. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about advice maybe for somebody that's going through, maybe let's just take from high school to college if they don't play, or from college to pro if they don't make that step. What advice, or how do you coach people in that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the earlier you can start to prep, the better. And so that can be really tough because as athletes, we like to get in our window where we're like, nope, I'm just going to focus on being the best basketball player I can be, or being the best football player, baseball, whatever it is. The earlier we can ingrain that these are skills that you're learning will be helpful in no matter what you do, I think the better it can be. And when we start to take an approach of who am I from a values perspective, then we can understand ourselves better. And so I love asking the question to athletes that I work with, why do you play baseball? Why do you play basketball? Like, why do you play football? Like, it's not to hit 300 or to average 24 points a game. Like, yeah, that stuff's awesome. And we play for the teammates, or we play because we're very competitive, or it gives us something that to do after school, or like whatever it is, there's always some further deep reason that we never spend time on thinking about or talking about. And so it's my favorite question to ask athletes is, tell me a little bit about why you play baseball, why you play basketball. And then let's learn. Let's just unpack that. Let's keep going lower and lower. Because I played baseball for the relationships. And so, yes, I was a baseball player, but really what I loved was developing those relationships with my teammates. Like, that's what was important to me. And I can center a job around that. I can center my life around that. And yes, baseball was a way to do that. And there are other avenues to get there. And so I think when you get below the surface, you understand what are someone's values, what's important to them. That helps them get away from, I'm just a thing, I'm just a noun, to hear the things that are important to me.
Great advice. Let's get some interaction. Jake, unmute yourself and let's have you. Jake's one of my guys, so I feel like I can kind of call on him and he can step out of his comfort zone and talk a little bit. So go ahead, Jake, unmute yourself. Tell us your why, as in like, why do you play basketball?
I've always loved basketball for the like competition side of things. I've always been super competitive, but like after I started playing high school basketball, I realized how much I could value like being a part of like something bigger than yourself, and like the team aspect and making relationships. I found to be really thankful for that stuff, especially with the time we're going on right now. I feel like it's really important to be able to like have stuff like that. So that's why
Jake, I feel like you're advanced. I can't imagine many guys thinking about that. Have you gotten that question before? Had you thought about that? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I've just had like, I don't know, last year I had a reason to think about it, like on a bigger scale. So like, I don't know, stuff doesn't always happen the way you want it to, but like the way you can like advance from that and move on from it and be better. I don't know. I found that the mental game was a lot bigger for me than physically.
Awesome. I think you're super advanced in how you're thinking, and obviously if you're connected with B minor and having and on these types of conversations, you're learning this stuff at an early age, which is really, really powerful. Because what I also love is when you teach the mental game, like, yeah, we might be talking about soccer or football or baseball, but like I'm teaching you life, like these are life skills. These are things that are going to help you in life way more than they're going to help you in your sport. Yeah, they'll help you in your sport for a couple of years. And then at the end of the day, being able to control your emotions, decide how to motivate yourself, how to set goals. Like those are life skills that you can learn through sport and through mental performance. But more importantly, they're going to help you for the rest of your life. And so the fact that you're learning all this early is fantastic.
Jake's on it. Jake's a solid one. Like just taking advantage of stuff like this. What about you, Will? Talk to us a little bit about your why, maybe with either reffing or what is it you love about basketball, and why do you love basketball?
So this somehow came to me my freshman year in college when I was watching an ACC tournament women's basketball game when color commentator LaChina Robinson was bringing this up about the eye of the tiger, and the eye of the tiger phrase hit me so hard because it realized that like I needed to stay around the game of basketball in some capacity, either coaching or officiating, because as an individual on the autism spectrum, basketball helped me take to new heights. It helped me go out of the shell. It helped me break my social anxiety. And I didn't have the high school varsity, a lot of competitive sports days as much because of the fight for inclusivity that I had to do. And definitely just when I got the opportunity at the age, I think of like 18 to coach and ref at Coach Wooten's basketball camp, it showed me that I want to stay around the game because I have the passion just like everybody else. Like I'm not going to back down. I'm going to be grittier, tougher enough and not quit like some people have do, and just not be sorry for yourself. You're doing it for the right reasons, and we should have the right to be included, to do what we want and have the passion. And this has taken place into other disability advocacy groups. Like from being at the sports level, it was translated instantly now with me being a transformational leadership, bringing new ideas, helping get others out of their comfort zone, because you're not going to be comfortable. You have to be prepared to be uncomfortable and lead when unwanted. When you see a place that needs somebody, you have to be that voice.
Wow. Well, that was amazing, man. I got the chills from listening to that. That was wow, man. That was awesome. I'm
Will the Thrill brings it, man. He's a faithful viewer, and he just brings the heat when he joins in. But that's good stuff, Will.
Wow. Yeah. Well, thank you. And we have another. So me and Will we're high school rivals in a way. We went to rival high schools. It was just such a bizarre coincidence. And you mentioned Coach Wooten's basketball camp, which I went to for like 6 years. So also we got another thing in common, which is just awesome. That was an amazing basketball camp.
Yes. Yes. And I got the opportunity to be a camper and actually work as an official and a coach for 2 summers.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, because you have to do what you want. You have to find the right reason for what you want to do. And this is why, I mean, I'm now a graduate assistant in accessibility services at Fort Hays State University, because I want people with disabilities to become champions again and have the glory that they deserve, and be self-determined to set goals for what they want to do and accomplish their dreams too.
I love it. It's amazing. I mean, it's just fantastic. I'm grateful that I'm on a Zoom with you and I'm hearing about your why. Both of your whys are just fantastic. Brant, that was a great idea to get their ideas. That was amazing.
Yeah, for sure. No, that does help kind of put it, and that's what makes players successful in sports is what's going to make them successful in life, right? I think that's kind of what you said, and
yeah,
feel is it's the discipline. You don't feel good, you show up because you're teammates, right? Because it's what you do. You lose a game, you still are with your teammates. You know, some of the most memorable moments aren't between the lines. It's after a tough loss in the locker room. It's
right.
The bus trips, because we didn't used to all have our heads down on our cell phones. When I was in high school, I'm older than anybody else on the call. It was story time, man. Like, we didn't have cell phones, so it was like, hey, we're heading over to North Medford. Let's talk about what it was like, you know, just hilarious stories, and people became better storytellers because people wanted to listen in the back of the bus to the best storytellers. And those are the things that I remember. And I love, Harris, that you said the relationships, because that's what's kept me in coaching. I know Will talked about his why of being around the game, and for me, it is the relationships. I mean, wins and losses are a byproduct, and let's not get it twisted. I want to win. Like, yeah. Right? Like, let's not get this twisted to where I'm a loser, but I want to win, but that's not the priority. I'm not going to sacrifice the long-term development of a young man for a short-term victory. That's microwave thinking. Right now. Okay, well, this kid screwed up, but I'm gonna let him play because we need him. No, I'm not gonna sacrifice the long-term for a short-term victory. And that's something that is the relationships. You know, I went to one COVID wedding this summer, and I was a former player, played for me, and now he's a D1 assistant coach. And those are the ones that you're like, wow, like, this kid was a player for me, and now he's worked his way up from junior college to now as a D1 full assistant on the road recruiting, sitting next to the head coach on the bench. And it's one of those that makes you proud as a coach. And that's what really matters, is 10 years from now, what these kids are like, you know. And I'm sure that's the same thing with you with these mental training. You want them to translate fairly soon, obviously, into their athletic career. Yeah. But in the long run, that's what matters. 10 years, 15 years from now, is that kid a good husband? Right. Are they a good father? Are they a good business owner or business employee, or just a good person?
Yeah, it's more important, and the more people we can get in the sport world that believe that and teach that way, I think the better it'll be. And so I love the message that you're doing. I love the slow cooker versus the microwave. That's a really cool analogy. I love that you brought it back there too.
Yeah, we did a Crock Pot challenge one day. I'll tell you about this team building activity we did. So in the morning, we split the team up into 5 teams, or within our team. Each one had to get up early and prepare a meal in a crock pot. And then we had a practice, and each of the teams, we did a shooting competition. The team that made the most shots got 5 points. The team that finished second got 4. The team that finished last got a point. After that, we went into the classroom and we had the crock pot challenge. So we had judges, and the team that had the most delicious meal got 5 points, and so on. And then we played the game Heads Up. I don't know if you know that one, you guys.
Yes, Heads Up, 7 Up.
The one where you put your phone up like this, and then people have to guess. So we played that. Best team got 5 points, 4 points. We were a motivational speaker. Then we went to the bowling alley.
Wow.
And competed, and it was tied at the end of that, like 23-23. So we're like, probably not going to settle this in a tie. We got to settle it.
Right.
Cool. At the bowling alley. The pool table was hot. Like, everybody in the whole bowling alley stopped and was watching this pool game. People are betting, hey, I'll bet you 20 push-ups he doesn't make this shot. Hey, we'll double or nothing. You do 20 push-ups if he does make this combo. And it was an intense game of pool. But that was our crock pot challenge.
That's incredible.
day
Yeah.
that we had, just team building, team bonding stuff,
Yeah,
you know.
why not? That's the stuff that you'll remember. Like they'll talk about that more than they'll talk about the 15-point win against the random
Right.
non-conference game. Like that,
Right, for
like
sure.
they'll talk about that pool game more than athletes will talk about a random win or a random loss, which is just really interesting. I mean, your point about people remember the relationships. When I ask people, hey, what was your favorite part about playing a college sport? Like, maybe if they won a championship, they'll mention that. But otherwise, it's always the people that I met, the relationships that I built, what I learned, the adversity that I felt, the resilience that I gained, all those things, way more than the wins and losses.
I feel that. I mean, that's my teammates in college. Like they're still, I mean, guys that were in my wedding.
Yeah.
Those teammates, like I said, in those road trips, and those are the things that you remember and take away. You know, obviously I like to bring up when we beat Gonzaga, Jake. I mean, you knew I was going to throw that in here. And, you know, playing against the Oregon Ducks was pretty cool. And so I got to work those into the conversation. But
Of course.
But what really matters is the win, not the wins, but the relationship wins and the friends you make and the development of those. It is the relationships and not just the here and now. But if you can, as a coach, trying to get the kids to move to accomplish more than they think they can and play together and build those relationships. That's what, because we're ultra competitive at Pacific University. Our practices are intense. Everything's timed and scored, and losers are running a lot. And you just have to, you can't practice soft and expect to come out and play tough.
Yeah.
So we want our practices to be more intense. And if you don't have good team chemistry, I mean, guys do get chippy at each other, you know, and they want to win and they don't want to lose because they have to run. And so they're going to compete. And that's where we tell them, hey, if you're taking it easy on the next guy, you're not helping us.
Right.
You're breaking a core value if you take it easy on your teammate. Well, we want you to bust him every time. Take the ball from him. Give it back to him and take it from him again.
Right.
Give it back to him, take it from him again if you're doing the zigzag drill and they're trying to, you know, just embarrass them. Don't let them, feel bad. Hey, I'll let you get a stop this time and then you get a stop down at the other. No, like if you can keep scoring on him, keep scoring on him.
Yeah, compete.
Competition. And that's something, everything is earned in our program. There's no entitlement. We don't want kids that have entitlement. I feel like rampant in our society now. There's a lot of kids that show up and are like, well, I was pretty good in high school, so I should get to play varsity right away.
Right.
And we want to have that competitiveness. So
I have guys that want to compete 100%.
So we do an episode, a quote. So I didn't prepare you as well, but you're an intelligent guy. I'm sure you can think on the spot of some quote that's either motivated you or inspired you or that's kept you going in tough times or something you heard along the way that helps you. Give us just a quote or two of things that have had meaning to you or still have meaning to you that you think would give Jake and Will and me and everybody else that's watching this on YouTube some knowledge.
Yeah, I'll give you my two favorites. The first one was one that I heard relatively recently that I really like. It is, you can't have everything you want, but you can want everything you have. So I don't know exactly who said it, but you can't have everything you want, but you can want everything you have. And I think it's a really interesting thing to get back to your point of gratitude and being grateful for what we have. We as humans have a tendency to want more, want the next step, want the greater thing. And let's be grateful for what we have. So that is one that I'm living by right now. And then another one that's sort of been ingrained from me from a very early age. I think it was attributed to Jerry Rice, but it was do today what others won't, so tomorrow you can do what others can't. So do today what others won't, so tomorrow you can do what others can't. Essentially put in the hard work today so that tomorrow you can have the success that others weren't willing to do.
Do today what others don't.
What others won't, so tomorrow you can do what others can't.
Love it.
So those are my two that I live by and I freaking love quotes. So I'm all about it. I love that y'all do that as part of the show. I'm sure you get a ton. I actually, we had talked about it briefly, and so I talked about it a little bit with some of my coworkers, and I just love the idea of bringing them up and making them part of community and society and all that good stuff.
We share a lot because there's a lot more people that have better ideas than I do. So if I can borrow a quote, laugh, think, and cry. I'm just saying that because Jimmy Valvano just popped on Jimmy V Week on ESPN. And if you can do three things, if you can laugh, think, and cry, that's a full day. That's a heck of a day.
I use that. That's top 5 quote for me, 100%. Favorite speech of all time. Definitely that one. You can laugh, think, and cry. I love it.
We got the guy in the back telling me 30 seconds. I got tumors all over my body. And you think I don't care what this guy says in the back? Radamus.
Yeah, amazing.
Like, that is a great speech.
One of the best speeches of all time. The Stuart Scott one was also really
powerful. That was a powerful one too. But there's never been a time, unless I'm filming for YouTube, that this speech comes on that I don't stop whatever I'm doing and listen to the whole thing, because that's just, and what he's done now for cancer research and hundreds of millions of dollars they've raised. Incredible.
Unbelievable. Yeah, that's an all-time speech. I love that.
And that Survive and Advance, that documentary, the 30 for 30 on where they refuse to lose and they just keep, okay, if we lose this, our season's over. Okay, we lose this one, our season's over. And that happened like 8 games or something, because they didn't win the ACC tournament. They weren't going to make the national tournament. And then they ended up making a run all the way and winning the national championship. I think that was 1984, NC State. Incredible. But yeah, that is a great speech. So here's what I'm going to share with everybody tonight. Keep away from those who try to belittle your ambitions. Small people always do that, but the really great make you believe that you can become great. Mark Twain. So I'll say that again, just in case it didn't come through as clear. Keep away from those who belittle your ambitions. Small people always do that, but the really great ones make you believe that you too can become great. And so I think that's show me your friends. I'll show you your future. Who you surround yourself with. If you're chasing a dream and you're hanging out with people that have different dreams or different goals, their actions can be different. Here's one that I say a lot. If your actions don't line up with your goals, change your goals or change your actions. Right? Like, otherwise you're just kind of being a fool. Like, you can't have these audacious, big goals without any type of work ethic, right?
Yeah.
So I think that one about stay away from people who belittle your ambitions. Stay away from small thinkers. Surround yourself with people that make you better, that make you level up, like seriously level up. I know if you surround yourself with winners, you have a better chance of becoming a winner. But if you're the type that hangs out with the pigeons, you're probably not ever going to get to fly with the eagles.
Right.
And so I think that's something that people have big goals and big dreams, but then they hang out with other people that say, you can't do that. Right. Like, that's not going to happen. And if you believe it, if you dream it and believe it, you can achieve it. And there's a lot of people that said you can't, but people keep doing.
Right.
People said, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that, but use it as fuel. I also love the one about not comparing yourself to others. I'm not worried about if their grass is greener. I'm just trying to get mine greener every day.
Like that.
I don't compare, because people do think the grass is greener on the other side. And it is one of those things where be happy with what you have. I love that one. The happiest people don't have the best of everything. They just make the best of everything.
Right.
And I'm a big quote guy. I'll tell you, I'll give you guys a quick story. Jake, Will, Harris, my favorite gift I've ever received. I've carried this with me everywhere I've ever gone from the time I received it. It's a deck of cards. My dad gave it to me on my graduation. And when you open it up, Every card, I don't know if you guys can see that.
Yeah.
Every card's an ace. Every single one of these cards is an ace. And my dad wrote on the first one, what goes around comes around. Thus, good times will come your way. A father's love is not a sometimes thing, some country song. And on each quote, each card is a quote. First, you make your habits, and then your habits make you. It's better to be the hammer than the nail. Another one of my favorites. Never wrestle with a pig because you'll both get dirty, but the pig will love it. Life is mostly froth and bubble. Two things stand like stone: kindness in another's troubles and courage in your own. So every one of these cards has a different quote. So that's
a great gift.
That was a great gift. My dad said the ace is the best card in the deck, and you're the best son a dad could ask for. And he's been an incredible mentor, father, tough on me at times. He was an Army officer. So my brother grew up more like wanting to be a military Army officer. I was more like, I want to go to college and play basketball and not get yelled at. And he's successful in a lot of ways. He's a lieutenant colonel. My brother is, which is right, lieutenant colonel, and then full bird colonel, and then general. So he's not far off from being, I mean, I don't know, probably won't ever advance to be a general, but he's pretty far in the ranking system. But all of them have a different quote, so it doesn't matter. And they're all, don't let what you cannot do interfere with what you can do. John Wooden. This is a baseball one. Don't let the fear of striking out hold you back.
Yeah, they're all
The
great.
happiest people don't have the best of everything, but they make the best of everything. That's about like yours tonight, Harris.
Yeah, so true. So true.
So I just had to share that because you're a quote guy. So that's part of the reason why I love quotes, is because there's so much knowledge in them, and people that have said it eloquently, more eloquently than if I can borrow their words and pass on that knowledge, it's pretty cool. So
the other one that I just like is you don't rise to the occasion, but you fall to your training and habits.
Navy SEALs.
Yeah, Navy SEAL.
Extreme Ownership is a book that I'm about to listen to on tape.
Yeah.
Tape. It's on my iPhone. I don't know if I should say it's on a tape anymore, but it's the one that I'm going to listen to. Extreme Ownership. It's a Navy SEALs, and that's kind of their motto: is you don't raise to the level. You don't think you're going to rise to the level of the competition. You just sink to the level of your preparation.
Exactly.
Well, that's a great one too. Well, Harris, I really appreciate your time, man. I know it's later back there than it is where I'm at, but it was definitely good to connect with you. A lot of good information there. I appreciate you sharing with us. And if there's ever anything that I can do to help you back there, let me know. I'll get this loaded up on YouTube. And so if people search your name, it might pop up. So maybe you guys are watching from 10 years from now. I think the internet's going to stick around.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't think it's a fad. I think the internet's sticking around. It might cycle the other way and less people on cell phones, but as long as the internet's around, this could still be living online. So thank you for listening if you're listening now. And Harris, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining as well. Jake, Will, Brant, obviously this was awesome. I appreciate your time. Thank you for having me on here. And similarly, if there's ever anything I can do to be helpful, the feeling's mutual. And so I appreciate your time. I'm grateful for your time, and keep doing what you're doing. You're doing awesome stuff and making the world a better place. So thank you.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And we end it with this way. We say, if you're going to walk, walk on.
Oh.
Walk on. All right, let's cut it. Let's print it. Stop.